Okay, hello and welcome back to another episode of Camp Time is Real Time. I'm your host, Sarah. We have a great one today. Guys, we got Eric. We are talking to Eric Gittings, Nutty Buddy Champion, part of the family that has been at camp 80% of its open operating time. What a good podcast this is. We get into everything from Eric's time as a camper to him being a counselor, to his whole family coming through. It's awesome. This is a great one. You're really going to love it. Keep the emails coming. camptimefcdc@gmail.com. Give us a follow on Instagram, camptime_realtime. This is a great one. Enjoy. When did you start going to camp? Were you...
So I was, like a Micmac and a Navajo.
Okay.
So I bounced around between those two groups for the first year. Like I was a Micmac and then I was a Navajo and then I was a Micmac again. So I don't know if that was just the first summer.
Yeah. Okay.
But I just remember, so like Navajo timeline or so, which is, I don't know how old that is. Is that 10?
I think it's 10. Yeah.
10. So that would have been in, probably 82 or 83 is when I started as a camper.
Okay.
As a camper. And I was like a 4-weeker. You know, I might have started out at 2 and then went to 4. I didn't do 6 weeks until like, I don't even know if I was an explorer for the 6 weeks or not, but it was 4 and towards the end I might have been 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But I was with Jesse Cowell.
Oh, okay.
So we traveled up together kind of, through the ranks. There was always like 2 groups, right?
Yep.
There was always the, 2 groups per tribe. So for the most part, there was like a whole group of us that kind of traveled up. But once you're a explorer, there's only one. So that was like the big year, right?
Yeah.
Of course, every year, explorer year is big. And that was great because as campers, we actually had a free period.
What?
So so it was pretty wild. So it was on Fridays, and I want to say it was like the last period before cookouts.
Okay.
So it'd be like 5th period. We go out early, we do whatever we wanted to do essentially. But yeah, it was one period a week. We would have a free, and usually we went out to the campsite and kind of just messed around or got it ready.
That's amazing.
That was
awesome.
Cool. Yeah, it was cool.
And you as an explorer, so you don't have like a CIT or so you just were on your own, like no counselor.
Yeah, free period, baby. So yeah, it was good. The thought was we could basically go and do whatever we wanted to in terms of activity. Like if boating was free, they might let us go boating, but typically we just hung out in the woods. That's for the most part.
I mean, I can't imagine why they got rid of it.
Right. So that's kind of where I went. I was a camper, and then was a CIT, and we actually were our group. So CITs were 2 years, right?
Okay.
Our group was 1 year, and I want to say because we were just so like in tune with camp, and it was just so great, and we were kind of all, I don't want to say mature, but yeah, of course we were, right?
Sure. Sure.
So that year we had we only had to be CITs for 1 year, and then we went to be assistants. And honestly, I think it was because we all grew up kind of through the whole thing, and there was like a group of like 6 or 7 of us that that did that transition.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I think there were only 2 CITs, and then the year after that there was like none. So when they brought them back, they were able to easily just do a 2-year transition without like stepping on anyone's feet or anything.
Right.
So
are any of the, so you mentioned Jesse, are there any other, like, who's that core group? Is there anyone like the body of camp at large would recognize?
So Heather Candela was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, me,
Yeah.
Jesse, Heather, and then there was Jess Graff,
Yep.
um, Kelly Flynn.
Oh wow. Like those are names that like ring a bell in my ear.
And when we were explorers, we had, not only did we have a free period, but we had this day where there was, we planned a day long trip, and we were going to canoe down the river all the way to the dam in Medway, right?
What?
On is it Lincoln's? I don't know. It's whatever, Sanford Mills in Medway, where the
Oh yeah,
dam
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were going to canoe back. Well,
What?
so, yeah. And so, we had the whole thing planned out. We're like, all right, we're going to take lunch. We'll be gone the whole day.
Right.
And then it turned out that we only made it, I guess they call it the Lost River now.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So we made it like just there, right? Which is
Okay.
just before the power lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that was it. And then we
That was
just
it.
we just sat there all day for a couple hours, and then a couple people brought fishing rods and they were trying to fish and stuff like that. And then it was then we came back.
So again, no counselors?
I want to say maybe that we did have a counselor for that one.
Okay.
With us.
Okay.
And basically what it was going to be was, since it was boating and we were taking it all up all day, whoever had boating would go to where we were supposed to go.
Oh, okay.
So I want to say that the boating counselor was going to be with us,
Okay.
and they were, and then we went down and then got stuck, and then we're like, well, that's it. Not going any further.
How long does it take to get to the Lost River by canoe?
I remember we had to get out a couple times and drag the boats over the rocks, but
okay.
Nothing. It probably only took less than an hour.
Right. Yeah. Because I was going to say that's not very far.
No,
yeah,
no. We would have been smart going upriver.
Yeah.
And then just float your way down.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Live and learn. That's fine.
So as a camper, cookouts. Cookouts were not fancy at all. Basically, it was bring your own food and we'll cook it. And bring your own food was a hamburger or a hot dog. So, and they highly recommended that you bring it in wrapped in foil. So when they cooked it on the grill, right, it's fairly clean,
right?
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Or it doesn't fall down, in between, and you're out of luck, kid.
Sorry. Yep.
So that was and it was crazy because you bring your bun, you bring your your burger, and they'd be cooking it, and then you try to check each one, and none of them cook the same way, and someone's got this, someone's got that. That's not my burger, that's someone else's. I'm not allowed to have this thing, I got to eat that. It was just my bun is all mushy. It was just but it was awesome. It was like, all right, simmer down.
So basically the camp provided the fire
yes,
like you brought,
and the campers brought whatever, it was like, oh, hamburgers and hot dogs, bring your own, and we'll supply ice cream sandwiches for dessert or whatever.
Gotcha.
It is, so it was
it
was funny. Well, that was it. Like, all right, kids, go find a stick if you want a hot dog.
Yep.
All right, well, you can either roll it around on the grill or grill it yourself.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't worry, it's already cooked. You can eat it cold.
That's another thing I remember learning at camp was, when you get your stick for marshmallows or hot dogs, it's like, you got to put it in the fire to like sanitize it.
Yeah.
And then I would like take it over to a rock to like
sharpen it.
Spear. I was like, this is a skill that I now know.
Yeah.
How to do. So
that's right.
Pretty vivid memory of sharpening my stick, be like ready for war.
Yeah.
It's good.
So I was a CIT for a year, and then I was an assistant. And one of the spots I was an assistant in was video.
Oh,
so
great.
but when we did video, we didn't have, an SD card that you're taping on.
Right.
And we didn't have, a DVD that you can just, scan through real quick.
Right.
This was VCR.
Yeah.
So it was, you got all these raw data VCR tapes that you actually have to scan through with a VCR, find out where you want it to be, and then copy it, replay it and record it on a VCR tape. So it was like, it was just really like, that's, we'd be up, and the videos were horrendous, absolutely horrendous, and the editing was up in Gail's office. So,
okay.
Thursday nights you'd be there, 6 o'clock, you'd show up and then you'd just edit until, till it was done.
Yep.
And yeah, they were, that was, we had fairly short videos.
Yeah.
And the quality was kind of weak. Special effects were hammers, hammers and Matchbox cars,
Yes, that's awesome.
That was pretty much it.
And then when you showed it, it was not on a TV that was much bigger, right? Like to the whole camp.
It was, they actually had probably like a 27-inch.
Yeah.
TV. And you're like, whoa, that thing's huge.
Right. Yeah. But when it's 50 yards away,
you're like at the other end of the stables, and you're like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Can almost hear it.
Yep. I also remember those very small TVs being used on rainy days. And
yes.
When they'd split the camp in half and, older and younger. And again, if you're at the back and you're watching one of those TVs, you're like, was that Air Bud?
Yeah.
Cool. And then you'd be looking outside, you're like, still raining, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were our counselor, or my counselor, you were in boating. Was that always kind of your go-to? How long were you ahead for?
So I was only ahead for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. Was 91, I graduated high school, was ahead that year, and then went away to college, and then was second year ahead, after my freshman year. And then, so that was the deal, right? They send you away, they invest in your certification, they want at least 2 years out of you.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, it was, trying to do something that was more in line with my schooling, so to speak. So,
yeah.
But with that being said, Kelly was there the whole time. So, I was still able to be part of it and take part in the fun times.
Yeah.
As a counselor.
Well, yeah, that's one of the, even just coming back for me after all this time, knowing a couple of people that are there makes all the difference in the world. Like, I'm sure that even if I just rolled in and it was, basically everyone different, the place would still be magic, but knowing a half dozen people, like, it makes it really nice. And you get the updates of like what's happening during the day that, from my kid, I get, how is camp? Good. And that's it. So
yeah. Give me more.
Right. Like, what was your schedule today? What did you do? And he's like, you got to relax. Or
what you make in ceramics? I don't know.
Yeah. Did you do a pinch pot? I used to do pinch pots. And it's like
ashtrays.
I know. It's funny when I was talking to my buddy Aaron, he's like, oh, he used to make ashtrays. And I'm like, no, they were pinch pots. And he's like, come on. Like, oh, okay. That's back when they used to fire the kiln.
Yeah.
Because it's all just like air drying clay now, which
that was cool when we would do that, because you would have glaze and then you'd fire it, dry it really, well, and then you'd glaze it and then fire it again. And it was just, it was like real ceramics, like real pottery stuff, oftentimes, things would explode because they weren't dry enough or whatever. So,
the first trip into ceramics of the session, it was like drilled into my head, like, you need to pound this clay out, because if there are any bubbles in there,
that's right,
the whole thing is going to explode.
It ruins everybody's.
And then so you spend 45 minutes trying to pound the air bubbles out of this, make a pinch pot, and then it's a 50-50 whether it explodes anyway.
Yeah, right.
So you're like gluing together the pieces and then glazing that, and you bring it home to your parents. You're like, look what I did. Like, thanks. Into the trash.
Yeah.
But I worked in ceramics for one stint as an assistant, and it was like, I think it was one of the last years they used the kiln, and I remember just thinking like, this seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah. And the thing was ancient too.
Yeah.
So I don't remember if it was a dead ants thing, but the one time that I feel I completely let Gail down was when I was a boating counselor, and Sam was my assistant, and we had, I think it was Steve Panciaco was my CIT.
Okay.
And so boating was going great, just everything's really was clicking for a few days. And we said, all right, Steve, you stay with the campers. Sam and I are going to go up the river and check to see how far we can go. Well, I guess apparently there was a frog or something jumped in one of the kids' boats, and they were screaming at the top of their lungs, and Gail comes down. She's like, who's in charge? And, Steve's like, they're around, she's like, where's Eric? He's around the corner with Sam. And then, so coming back, she, needless to say, she wasn't very pleased, so that was, that was my experience letting her down.
That's terrifying.
Oh yeah, it was bad news. Like a bunch of 8-year-olds in a canoe being watched by a 12-year-old.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's fine.
No.
Got their lifeguard.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how far did you guys get? More importantly.
I don't remember. I want to say that she went into the woods and found us, like, like the trail along to the right, right?
No.
What are you doing?
Oh, no. What are you doing?
Yeah, right. So, needless to say, we turned around immediately.
Oh my gosh. That's like the only thing you had going for you at that point is that you were literally in the canoe with Sam.
Yeah, right. Well, we can either take our sweet ass time getting back, or we got to hightail it, one or the other.
Oh my gosh.
Pioneering. So back in the day when it was a guy named Nino, and somebody named Bob, I forget his last name, but we called him Bob Bear. He's just this big, huge guy. And we would actually, Nino was the one who made the model campsite, right? Where he had a refrigerator. So, you dig a hole and, make a refrigerator. There was an outside shower. There was like a toilet. But one of the cool things was one year we made a swing. So it was like a kind of like a Ferris wheel, right? But there were only two swings, and it would go around in circles, right?
Okay.
And we called it the swing of death.
Great.
Because you were sitting on a 2-foot square piece of plywood that's held, it's hung by ropes, right? You're on one side, and one would get on the other side, and then they would start trying to crank it, essentially, right? It would be pulled with like a rope and trying to get it to go over, and it would swing back and forth until you get enough, and then finally it would do a revolution, and it was it was a little bit shady. They don't make things like that anymore.
No, not in pioneering. Not that no.
But we made a bridge that went over the river. It was like a bridge out of logs, like not sticks, but small logs. Made a bridge and stuff like that. So
what part of the river?
Up at the top near across from the dragon, the sea serpent.
Oh yeah.
There was So it was just where that bend is, just before the bend, it was like an island almost. It was kind of marshy.
Okay.
But you could go, they built it over to that.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah.
So, so that's interesting you say that about Nino, because Dave, the madman, is always the reference point of pioneering that I have in terms of like the person kind of doing that, like having everything out at that campsite, like the shower and everything.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I think it was helpful that like Dave, I think, was an Eagle Scout.
Yeah. Seems like
and Nino, I think he was in scouting as well, some sort. And so it was kind of like, if you didn't have that background and you were doing pioneering, like when I came back that one year, I did pioneering.
Oh, okay.
And it was basically showing them how to light a fire,
Yep.
And cookouts were, I don't want to say more elaborate, but they were a little bit more fancy than burgers,
Sure.
So, but yeah. So, I mean, if you have the background, it's great. If you don't, you're struggling a little bit to put on the show.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like what's the difference between that and woodlore at that point? Really, it's
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just like being in nature versus like survival, I guess. I remember learning to tie knots in pioneering.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who the counselor was at that point, but there were definitely like good life skills I took away from that in general. So I think that's good. And like in woodlore, I learned how to make a bird feeder out of a pine cone and peanut butter.
There you go. And you still do it now with your kids, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or at least you can if you had to.
Yeah, exactly. We use sun butter though, so not peanut butter.
Right. So just in case the birds are allergic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, celebrity visits. They would have them every now and then. I remember one year someone dressed up as Michael Jackson and came in with a police escort, and it was like the big to do, and everyone was everyone was cheering. It was great. But that would have been like 80 whatever it was when he did his moonwalk.
Wait, so was this like a Friday or just like a random day? And I
want to say it was like a random day, because they used to do stuff like that on random days, and that was all before everybody did a skit, there might have been like 3 or 4 groups that would come out of theater with a skit. I mean, that's what when we were campers, when we had theater, we would actually put on a little theater skit at the end of, so it wasn't every tribe, it was groups, all right, these kids are going to put on a little show, and these usually they're like comedy sketches.
Oh, sure. Hilarious stuff, I'm sure.
One year we had they did a little wrestling show with there was this guy, I think his name was Jay. He was like a another big guy, college football player, and then John Bucci, who was I think he was a CIT maybe at the time, and he was a I mean, he was a small guy, a little bit, thin, and he wasn't big by any means, so you got this huge guy and this little guy, and they're wrestling together, and like literally, we drew out a ring within the circus tent, right?
Okay.
And they had all the camp around the ring, and it was big rope ring, and they would just start wrestling and start like picking him up, and he would, Jay would throw John down, and it was like literally wrestling him like WWF style, right? It was so it was I think they did that once. A one and done on that one.
Yep. Like just as a like, hey, we've got something exciting happening today.
Yeah, it was the big humongous versus the unicorn. John had a ponytail on the front of his head.
Oh my gosh.
The unicorn against, this big guy, the big humongous.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Who won? Was it, did the
The
unicorn
big
come out?
humongous. You know what? I don't remember. It probably was a draw.
Yeah,
Know?
yeah,
Right?
yes. That's awesome. So did they have video back then too? Like when you were a camper, I guess?
Yeah. So when I was a camper, I don't know if it was that year, if they had it or if it was just after I started, but there was video,
Mm-hmm.
and they had it was the big video camera that was on your shoulder, and
Yeah.
then you had the VCR
Like
on your
the
hip,
pack. Yep.
the pack slung over. So it was like a big deal, a big
Right.
battery pack. Oh, your battery ran out and you had to replace it.
Yeah.
Um, so they actually I think they had somebody who was into video from Medfield.
Mhm. Of course.
And yeah, I mean, and then they actually had a second video, which was video and music. So it was video for the older kids and then video and music for the younger ones. And if they were, young ones, they would do music. If they were a little bit older, they would do video. But it was the main video, I think, that would put on the shows, not the
Yeah.
shows, but the
The
videos
Friday
at the end of the
thing.
week.
Yeah.
So it was,
Oh.
and I don't know, that might have been like for maybe a year or two,
Yeah.
but and then they had regular video
Yeah.
and music together, and then they broke off, once they needed the extra, fill.
Once they said, yeah, we're gonna change the schedule around so the explorers don't have a free period.
Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh.
It is funny that like how much the camp has stayed the same, but there are like tiny tweaks all the time that like cumulatively make sense now, and you're like, oh yeah, no, of course we don't have campers with free periods or
right.
But they were saying, because my memory of music, for example, was an activity for the younger kids. Yep. And then the older kids would have video or like a double period of video or something.
Right.
And I guess now everyone has music straight through, and and they alternate the schedule. So the schedule week 1 and week 2 of the session is totally different.
Oh yeah.
So that was I didn't know that. So I when I went to camp to pick up like the first day, I like snapped a picture of the schedule or whatever. And because I think I was asking Kelly, I was like, what did he have? She's like, go look at the schedule. So I snapped a picture. And then the second week I was like, oh, did you have tie time today? And he's like, no. And I was like, what? So,
it's Tuesday. What are you talking about?
Look at this picture. But he's like, again, you need to relax. But yeah, like all the like kind of like small tweaks that have been made, like for example, like, oh, we're gonna do Shaolin, oh, we're gonna take it out, like stuff like that, like making like the ultimate schedule. So there was always like one activity or so that would rotate through. I mean, there's the main ones, right? Adventure, which adventure was awesome. When I was there, they had they actually had they would make the counselors take a ropes course, and then as a camper, they would have us actually tie into a harness. Oh, wow. And then we would do the high wire walk. Mm-hmm. So we'd be strapped in, and they would be belaying us and everything, and then there was a wall, which was probably the same size as the one, maybe a little bit bigger. But again, with that, we would be strapped in, harnessed in, and we'd climb up, and so it was more higher elements than the ground team elements, that type of thing. So so that was cool. Oh, that's I love adventure.
Oh yeah.
It was one of those things like, after you're there for a few years, when you get out there, like the first time, they're like, we're going to do trust fall today. And we're like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's can we climb something?
Yeah. Can we do the tire swing? The
exactly.
peanut butter pit?
We are prepared to, as a group, tie all of our shirts together to get the rope so that we
exactly
so we can go. Like, we're ready.
yeah
But yeah, I guess there's a method to the madness, but it's you know, as an 8-year-old, it's tricky to see beyond exactly what you want to do. Do you remember when we used to all let balloons go into the air and
yes.
and
Balloon day
and send up, you know, like 250, 300 balloons just into the sky, and then hope that and everyone would have like a postcard attached to them, and then hope that someone would find our balloon,
send it back, you know, while you're at camp.
Yep.
You know?
And then it was a big deal because like after a few days, Tom would be like, "We got one."
Yeah.
like this one's coming all the way from Medway.
yeah. Walpole, Mass.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
I found this in my, you know, hanging in the trees in my yard. And...
Yep. I know. So, that was an early on for me that they were like, I don't think this is good for the environment. I don't think we should do this anymore.
Yeah. Well, it was, you know, and it was horrible. You know, there'd be some, you know, you'd release them all and then, you know, they would start drifting into the woods and then they would get all hung up in the trees and they, you know, half of them wouldn't make it out. It was like,
like, hope it's not mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that was like a very cool thing as a camper to see. It was like a great image.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You see a whole ton of balloons just, you know, flying up and then even getting the card back, you know, the postcard, and like everyone was like, yeah, you know, it was like a big deal. Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
If it was yours, that was like, that was huge.
Yeah. You would definitely be getting a Butterfinger, you know,
big, like, congratulations.
Yeah. You know, king size for you. Right.
That's right. Yeah. That was fun. That was a good time. I totally am happy we're not doing it anymore, but it was very cool. It was and it was one of those like, bring the camp together days. Like, that's kind of like one of the themes where, like, you know, Tom always said sing was the glue of camp, and it is. But like all of those things where the whole camp gathers, so it's not just like the tribes, like that, like I think that's what kind of like helps to like brew the magic, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, you know, the counselor competitions, and it's not just the physical competition, right? It's like you said, it's having everybody there and, you know, cheering for the one that you want, and, you know, having the heads versus the assistants, and, you know, yeah.
And then definitely. It becomes like, it becomes a thing, like it just like, I don't know, it just like having everyone together all the time, and like that, like those special days, like they know what they're doing over there. Turns out.
I know. They're doing something right.
Something right, that's for sure.
So let's see, sing. Before they had the tent, they used to be in the stables. And the stables were essentially cut in half. You'd walk in on that side door and there was a wall where that sink is now. And you know, on the left side would be the regular, you know, junior camp spots, and there was a piano, and that's where sing was. The same piano, I think that's probably still there, but that's where sing was. And the whole camp would be squeezed into that one side. And it was, you know, and then, so, you know, when you're doing stuff like ham and eggs, right? You know, where you're yelling and stuff, it's, you know, it's super loud because everybody's in there, you know, screaming at the top of their lungs, but it would get hot and sticky. And it was, some days it was like really, woof.
I bet.
You know?
So when they moved Sing up to the tent, were you like, were you immediately like, this is great? Or were you like, I liked it better when we were?
It was probably better because you could spread out, you know, because I mean, people were starting to get stuck on top of each other, and like you had to sit, you know, within your little, you know, 2 square foot area, and you couldn't like spread out. And, you know, once you got up to the tent, it was kick back and,
it's like,
you know,
moving to the suburbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we would do again on rainy days, like toward the end of the day, if we knew we were going to dismiss from the stables, it would be like, all right, we've got an hour. Let's just do a sing. So
Yeah.
that's the memory I have of doing sing there. And granted, it was raining, but I remember being like, oof, this is a lot.
Yeah. But then we had the whole stables then.
Yes.
And they had the doors, so the garage doors, they would all be open,
right.
So all 3 sections would be used, and
that's true.
There was a lot more space.
That's right.
And
then we'd come in rain crew giving fake names to Tom.
Yeah.
Like Theo and Rudy Huxtable.
Yeah. Lucy Bowles.
And then he'd just say it louder.
Or he'd be like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Give me a real name, please.
Well, that was one that you never knew, but there were sometimes Tom did not want to joke around with that. He's like, come on. Like, okay, no more. You'd like relay the message, like, no more fake names.
Yeah.
He wants to be done with this day.
But yeah, those were always the best when you could sneak one in.
Yep. And if it was like running smoothly and he got it, he'd be like, yeah. Yeah, there's always rolling the dice with that one, but the payoff was always very good.
Yeah.
It was good. Was there always like a person with the guitar, like leading sing up with Tom or Sam? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Usually it was the person who did sing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, music. Yeah. And the music and the video, usually the same they were the same person at one point. So, it was just a music person who can play the guitar and sing, So yeah, and there was a couple years that you'd have somebody who could do a little more than somebody else, so
sure.
Sing would have been great, or Sing might have been a one-man show, where someone would just be performing the whole time, and then they bring some camp songs in, and but yeah, the thing when I was CIT, I think it was they had John Svetke, who was he was a musician.
Yeah.
So he actually, could sing and play, lots of songs, and so that was good.
Yeah, Bill was singing his praises, particularly around the campfires at the overnights.
Yep.
Where he could just kind of like flex his musical talents a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like,
And there was him and somebody named, I think his name was Chris. I think it was a friend of his, and he would sing. He was like a singer, and John would, playing, the guitar and stuff. And it was great.
I mean, you do look back, it's like there have been so many like truly talented people who've worked at camp that I don't know. It just it I'm sure helped to kind of make the camp what it was. But you look back, like, wow, like even like the pioneering stuff, like that's like real world stuff you can take. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like music set. Like we all, like, I learned how to swim at camp. Like there's like a lot of
there's things that you learn that you can take with you.
Yeah. Like, I can shoot a bow and arrow. Well, not very well, but
hey, at least I know how to do it.
Exactly.
I know, I know I got to keep my wrist out of the,
exactly. Yeah. Put my wrist guard on, and then I can do whatever I want.
That's right. And you don't flick the bow dry, we always with an arrow.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. When I was talking to Jack and Scott, who did archery probably about like 10 years ago, they've got these. Apparently we wouldn't recognize the equipment if we saw it today.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we shooting at? But, being in the, it just reminded me, being in the tent with everyone when it would, when we'd have like a rainy day, and it would, just be raining to like start the day. So we're all in the tent, and they'd be like, we're going to do a rain dance. And so everyone would grab an instrument from the music box, and they'd be, this, line of counselors running around, like basically killing time, but like doing a rain dance.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that, like, in general, when you say you know, do a rain dance or do a snow dance, it's because you want that thing to happen. I understood.
You grew up thinking it was pushing it away.
Yeah. So I remember like probably too late in life being like, hold on a second. I thought this rain dance was to get rid of the rain.
Yeah.
Like, no, you've been going to camp for too long.
That's right.
It's like, well, it always seemed to work. So
Shaolin. Oh, I mean, you know, we can't have kids running around karate chopping each other, you know? So we call it Shaolin, and then they call it movement, where it's, you know, and
yes.
nobody wants to take dance. Oh, we'll call it movement, you know? All right.
I remember movement.
Right,
I remember that. And we were like, what is this? That was like destined to fail, that activity. Maybe for junior camp, but like much beyond that, we were like, no, try again.
And then there was another one called Kevin's Corner. And this was so Kevin Winship was the counselor, and he made a big wheel, like the Wheel of Fortune, and it had all these activities, and you spin it, and whatever it landed on is what you would do that day. So one of them was fried dough, right? You make fried dough for that, not that day, but for that activity. Another one was fix a bike or tune up a bike. So he would teach us how to tune up a BMX bike or whatever. Another one was Mr. T turtle trap. So we'd make a trap to try to trap Mr. T.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was a bunch of stuff like that.
One more thing. Was there a tree house there? Did I make that up?
No, actually, there was one. It was down at the right, almost where, I guess where there's a picnic table.
Right. Like where the bridge kind of.
Yeah. There was a tree house there.
Was that?
There was a big pine tree that was up there.
Yeah. And
I think that lasted like for 2 years or something. That got struck by lightning.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. But there was one there.
I remember it only vaguely, and it was like in disrepair, like do not go up there. Like that was the only thing. But what did they use it for?
Well, I think someone just built it.
Oh, gotcha.
I think maybe he was trying to build it to do something with it, but then there was the bird's nest, which was that right where the gazebo is now. Mm-hmm. There was a two-story structure, tree house, not tree house, but it was some big structure. And that was pretty shady. And that actually, from my understanding, had a zip line that went from that across the river.
What?
Before they put the bridge in, they had a zip line. Yeah.
So instead of building a bridge, they're like, we'll just zip
them over, And that's where the bell was on that that treehouse tower thing.
Yeah.
Where they would ring the bell. That's where I've always remembered the bell being. Mm-hmm. And then it was, and when I was there, the boathouse was the theater. That was the boathouse. So that was new.
Oh.
When I was there, and where the old boathouse was when I was there was that they just stored wood in there all winter. So that used to be like way back in the day, that was the boathouse, I guess. And then they stored wood in it, and then they built the theater. And then that was used as the boathouse and as a theater. And then we went back to that little structure for the boathouse. Yeah. And then I left, and then they built the one that's there now.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I remember going into the boathouse to get my life jacket, and it was like
the ground was a little bit
shaky. They were like, just put the concrete down, it's fine.
Yeah.
And you just kind of look for like a good looking life jacket and get out of there as quickly as you can.
Exactly. Yeah, so those were overnights they were fun. The places to hide for the counselor hunt.
Yeah. Where, give me your hiding spots.
So one of them was there was a manhole cover outside the boys and girls room, and it was probably you know well, so it was a manhole cover that was outside the boys and girls room. So I think you could maybe fit two people, but it was usually a one person thing, and it was right where that bubbler is. So you lift that up, crawl in, and hide there. And that was scary because it was not a round cover; it was a square one. So like the lid could fall in on you if they lifted it and dropped it. So, but that was a good spot because he said, "Oh no, no one's allowed to hide in there. No one can hide in there. No, that was like." Said to be off limits. Another one was there was a counselor that climbed to the very top of the pine tree at the top of the hill. So at the top, like where the big oak is, and then there's the big pine that's just on the edge of the hill.
Yeah.
Climbed all the way to the top and just sat there the whole time, and no one got him.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow. So were people what were the rules, right? What it was all the woods and camp where everything was in bounds, right?
Yeah. And if you were in the woods, you're only allowed like, I want to say like 20 feet off the trail or 10 feet off the trail. You couldn't, just walk through the woods, right?
Right. Okay.
But of course, we had, be like 10 of us running out to the power lines,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It like, so they give you guys as counselors, like, all right, here are your rules. And they're like, okay, see ya.
Yeah. Everyone would go into the stables and they would hang out and do like a, 15-minute, whatever, 10-minute, 15-minute thing, give all the counselors a head start to go out. And then they would just scatter. Yeah. So.
And like this is the part that I love it. And because it was like, no one's in charge.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, it's getting dark and everything is like, go ahead, kids, go. As long as you have a buddy, you can go into the woods.
Travel with somebody and you're okay.
And that's it. And then just,
when you hear the bell, listen for the bell. You got to come back.
And we just were like, okay, hope to see you in an hour.
Yeah, right.
But I can imagine. I'm assuming it always worked out okay because we probably would have heard about it.
Didn't lose anybody. Yeah. And then one of the other hiding things would be, there would be counselors would hide near the, near the pool, and once there were like 8 people in the pool, they would just slip right in, and then just swim, and no one would get them.
That's right. Hide in plain daylight.
Yep.
Oh, so smart.
So yeah, there was, and then just the outbuildings that were, you try to just get into a little, little hole somewhere,
Yeah.
But
yeah, they were so fun. I like anyone who has a memory of overnights. I'm like, let's talk about it, because they were, I only had 2 years of them.
Yeah.
And it like, so 6 overnights made an impression.
Oh yeah. And so it was, at the end of the day at camp, everyone comes in, of course, with all their gear. So everyone's like, walking up the hill in the morning. Oh, the younger kids are like, oh, they're staying for the overnight. Oh, you're one of the older kids. And then, so they come up with all their gear. And of course, the morning post would be just full of stuff. Everyone's got a backpack and a sleeping bag, right? And then maybe a bag of other tricks or whatever they're doing.
Right.
And then after camp, you go out, light a fire, have dinner. Usually that was steakums, and then have dinner, and then come back over the bridge. And then it was either counselor hunt or it was capture the flag. They did that afterwards. Because too many people were not being in the area. But capture the flag stopped. That had to be canceled as well because there were too many injuries. People, the challenge where you can pull someone over the line, right?
Right. Yeah.
Too many arms getting yanked, and it was pretty wild. They would draw the line basically from the top of the hill all the way down to the bridge. and the one side would be, campers, and the other side would be counselors, whatever. And that was fun. But yeah, that
awesome.
happened. And then after that, it was free swim. You go up, and then they would do the cookout or the fire.
Yep.
Sometimes they would do like a skit.
Yeah.
They would squeeze that into.
Yep.
But then it was the campfire, and then torches go out. And one of the coolest things was sitting at the top of the hill where the bell tower is now. That's where the fire pit was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at night watching all the torches go out into the woods,
Mm-hmm.
and it was every tribe had their own torch, and then basically 2 tribes per campsite.
Right.
So they would go out, and there'd be one all the way to the left, and you'd see the torches, going through the woods, Yeah. So, and then, so it was good.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's, again, that's so funny. I just talked to John, and he mentioned that exact same thing. He's like, that was the best part of campsites.
Yeah.
Watching. Cause like, because they'd send them off kind of like they dismiss from the circle, like youngest.
Yeah, younger kids first. Yeah.
And
so if you were lucky to be the oldest ones, you would see that whole thing go out. And then in the morning, there's always like some kids up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and the tables, they would have like 5 of the banquet tables all lined up with dozens and dozens of donuts and all the sugar cereal and just everything. And the kids would go eat, and then everyone would do a morning, well, not everyone, but a lot of people would do a morning swim, which would turn the water like murky gray because everyone had all like nastiness all over their feet and stuff. And it was just, so yeah, you gotta get your morning cleaning in, scrub. And then come out and have everyone would be at the post,
Gosh.
break everything down. Yeah, it was wild. It was great.
It was truly so fun. So fun. Yeah, the sheer amount of sugar cereal was just enough, like you wouldn't believe it. It was great. And yeah, no matter how early you got up as a camper, Tom was up. Like he had it like go like this.
Oh yeah,
this whole full thing and everything. It was, oh man, that was. So
so I want to say that's when, so that the year when that stopped was the year that all of us counselors would start to we did like a canoe trip or something, so we would all still have that opportunity to socialize on an overnight camping type experience, so to speak.
So you guys kind of started that.
That would have been that whole group.
Did you to the island down by Great Woods?
Yep. Yeah. So we started going down somewhere. We did one trip. It was on the Charles River, going to, I think it was Rocky Narrows or something like that in Medfield.
Okay.
We put in and then float down to, I don't know, 2 bridges later, spend a night at one, halfway in between the spots, and got out. So we did that. And then we decided, what, let's just go to one of the islands in Great Woods, and then just spend the weekend, and you don't have to, get up and move.
Right.
so
exactly.
You could just, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, that's because I think that's, well, I don't know if it's still going on, but I definitely did it.
Yeah. But that we started that when we didn't have that overnight experience, with with camp anymore, when they stopped doing that. So
that makes sense. Yeah, because it's fun. Like everything else aside, like you're camping. Like it's
absolutely. Hanging out with a bunch of kids,
Yeah.
We were all, 19, 20.
Yep.
Some 21,
Yeah. We have to talk about the eating competitions because I think those okay. So Nutty Buddy, for anyone who doesn't know, were you an explorer when you first did that? Is that?
I think I was a camper.
I'm
pretty sure I was an explorer.
Okay. So
I might even have been like a Mohican, maybe. Yeah, so it was the Nutty Buddy ice creams that they're like the cardboard cone with ice cream in it, and
Yeah.
it was who could eat one the fastest. That was pretty much it. So they had a bunch of counselors come up, and they had me as the camper representative. And it's kind of unfortunate, but they don't really have it on video. And the reason why is because they were expecting this big guy, I think his name was Brian, he's some big football player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was supposed to win. That's what
Right.
they were expecting. So they had everyone lined up, and they were panning the video from left to right.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had me first, and they went down the line.
Right.
And then they were going to end on him winning, because that was the expectation. So they start the pan, and then they say go. Well, they started with me, and then they went, and then all of a sudden the crowd was cheering. Everyone's like, woo, and they're like, what's going on? And of course I won, but they don't have it on video because they weren't expecting it. It was like halfway down the line and it was over. So it was pretty funny.
I mean, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I mean, we're talking about a matter of seconds, like 3 or 4 seconds, and this thing is gone.
Yeah. And they said you had to eat it. And, so my thought process was, all right, it's in my mouth. I ate it, so just, cram it in and the show's over.
Do you remember, were there eating competitions before that? Like, cause I'm wondering if they thought this was going to take like a minute or something like that. And you just like changed the game.
Yeah, I want to say there were. So further on, as the years go on, and doing the eating competitions, I don't know if I should really say this, but
we can edit it out.
We would the big humongous was one of my eating guys I ate against.
Okay.
Jay. And so Tom's like, oh, we're going to do an eating competition. I'm like, all right, great. No problem. So I'll come in with this big sub and for lunch, and I won't eat it. And I'll give it to Jay. I'll be like, Jay, I don't feel well. Do you want my lunch? Eats this, sub. And then, after lunch, Tom's like, all right, we're going to have an eating competition. And they pull me up.
Yep,
and they pull Big J up.
Oh, come on.
Well, what's this? I'm like, I had no idea what's going on. And then later on, he would call me up first. And of course I would have the cone, and I'd have it in my hand and getting it all nice and soft and ready to go. And everybody, the people would get, called up, later on they weren't able to, or they wouldn't think of melting their cone.
Exactly.
Condition. We call it conditioning.
Okay. Excuse me.
So it folds a lot easier when it's warm.
Secrets revealed.
That's right. Don't try this at home, kids.
Right. Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. The last time I did it, I was, it was tough going down.
Yeah.
Had to go behind his office and
take care of business.
Yeah. Have some alone time.
Well, is it like, I would imagine you get up there and it's almost like muscle memory. Like I can't slow down eating it. Like I have to still try as hard as I can. Yeah. Like that thought is never. Yeah. I could appreciate that. Yeah. Tom used to love with the eating competition. I'm happy to hear he did it with you too. Totally setting someone up.
Oh, completely.
Just, like massively overeat and then be like, you got to do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, one year I was eating against Todd Ferris.
Oh, okay.
And it was something, it was eating, we had to eat hot dogs. Oh. So we had to eat like 3 or 4 hot dogs and then a bowl of spaghetti and then 3 or 4 more hot dogs. So it turned out that Todd completely hated the hot dogs. Like he couldn't eat hot dogs, So we're sitting there, just
delicious.
teasing him. Yeah, this is great. And he's just like, oh, I can't do this. So like, no, dude, you have to, So that was pretty funny.
Well, yeah. I think Tom also, if he found out you had an aversion to a food, he's like, let's do that. Let's try
Yeah.
that in front of the camp.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, let's do that. Yeah. That'll be a sight for the camp to see.
Oh yeah.
See if they can rise. Oh, that's great. Well, I like that. I like to hear also that you were like in cahoots with him a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, you earned it at that point, right? So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think everyone's okay with that.
It was great. And plus, I mean, as long as you're willing to go along with it, right? They'll do anything.
It's true.
There were those counselor competitions like Jello, right?
Yeah, sure.
Put your face in a bowl of Jello. Well, back in the day,
sure,
they had one bowl of Jello. and it was pretty gross.
So
and by the time the last person in, it was all sloppy and it was just nasty. So
and they had the nurse on standby.
Yeah. Well, they had one year the nurse was in it, and I forget the nurse's name.
Was it Margie, right?
It might have been.
Yeah.
And she blew everyone away. It was like, 4 minutes of breath, holding your breath, and they're like, all right, no more. This is, not fair,
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah. So I don't know if they, I'm sure that there were eating competitions before that, but this was the first one that I remember. And the funny thing is that, we made a belt, through the years, you got to hype it up. So I made a belt, and then, it fell behind some dresser in the house, and by the time my parents moved out, they pulled this thing out from the wall, and the movers were like, hey, check it out, man, the Nutty Buddy Champ lives here. And there you go.
That's awesome.
This big cardboard belt, they're like, oh, check it out. So
you're like,
yeah,
you're damn right.
They got a kick out of that.
So you had, because I think I've seen pictures. So you had a belt, and then there was a trophy made in your honor, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a pig trophy.
The Gittings Award, right?
The Gittings Award. Yeah.
And then was that just for whoever would win the eating for the year, or Nutty Buddy? Or...
that came like after I was gone.
Oh, did it?
That was, that came, I think there was a video counselor, Carl.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was I think he did eating stuff.
Okay.
Competitively or recreationally, but I think he brought the award. Yeah.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah. So I don't know if he was a competitive eater or not, but he's like, oh, I was in some of these before, and yeah.
No.
So.
Well, everyone brings something to camp. That's great.
Right.
So I understand now that Billy kind of has the belt right now.
Yeah.
And I think Ty was telling me he's got a belt, and he does like a whole lead in. So I guess there are eating competitions throughout camp, and then whoever wins those gets to battle Billy at the end, I guess. Is the prize. So that's kind of where it is. Do you think you would ever throw your hat in again, or?
Oh no, absolutely not. I did one a couple years ago, and I had to. Yeah, it was rough. It was very rough.
That's good. It's a young person's game.
Yeah,
competitive
exactly.
eating.
Yeah, exactly.
I said to Kelly, and I believe this to be true, I think you guys are truly like the first family of camp. I don't think that's like hyperbole, because you met at camp, you have kids, all of whom went to camp and were counselors. Like, I don't know. I think that might be,
short of the Rices, right? I mean, Sue and her husband didn't meet there, but,
Sure.
She was there for, and then Billy, and now, and his, brother and sister were there. And I think the grandkids are going next year or something like that. So.
Yeah, I actually heard Billy said John's son he's the same age as my son. They're going to be in the same time.
Okay.
He's coming for 4 weeks. They live in Texas.
Yeah.
He's coming for 4 weeks. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll get him. You and Kelly were counselors when you were the head of the Choctaws, when you had my tribe.
Yes.
And is that the year you guys kind of got together? Is that
92? So my last year. That was my last year that I was there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
we felt like, I think I said this, when we finally had you as a counselor, we were this tribe, like a lot of us were 6-weekers. We kind of like, came up through camp, and we're like, oh, wow, we've got this like counselor that everyone knows. Like we felt almost like it was a reward to we were like, oh, we have like, someone that everyone knows. We're excited to have him. And then unbeknownst to us, it was going to be the year that you meet Kelly and start this dynasty.
Yeah, right.
So
you were there for the beginning.
Happy to have played a role. But yeah, what's it been like? Because you haven't been there for, haven't worked there, and we'll get into that. But what's it been like to kind of still have camp in your life, I guess, without being there?
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm there at, once a week, usually, just, awesome. Visiting, cause just the way my work schedule works, so it's nice, and I'm, still friends with like Billy and stuff. So, it's I feel like I'm part of it, even though I'm not like employed, right, as part of it, so I kind of get to experience things still, which is nice. My kids are there and stuff, so I get to, watch them when they were doing stuff. But I love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, you pulled off what I think most people are like in awe of. So you had been gone for a while, and then at this when this happened, I wasn't here. And all of a sudden I hear, oh, Eric's going back. And I was like, well, how is he doing that?
Yeah.
So how did you pull off going back to camp after how long a hiatus was it? Probably like 20 years or something.
Yeah. I don't know the date, the year I came back, because it was my youngest. So Rachel was, it was her first year there.
Okay.
So it would, so all my 3 kids were there.
Nice.
And Kelly's been there. So, we said, hey, it'd be great if I could come back and, work. And I talked to Tom about it. And so I ended up taking, basically working second shift and weekends at work, and then did camp during the week. So it was amazing. It was 6 weeks of hell, so to speak, right?
Sure.
But it was great. I just, made sure, I'm like, Tom, listen, if this happens, I got to have an assistant that I can really lean on, just that knows what they're doing,
right.
And stuff like that. So yeah, it was great. That was, like I said, the first year that the whole family, and the only year. And then, a couple years later, I had an opportunity to, Sam and I called it job sharing. He worked part-time and I worked part-time. Same thing. We shared the tribe.
Yep.
We did boating, and that was another one where, we said, listen, I got to have an assistant that can basically run on their own.
Yeah.
So that, they can deal with the difference of, Sam being a counselor and me,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, that was like 3-4 years later, and that was another, it was great.
That's
awesome.
Great.
I'm due to come back.
I know, I was gonna say.
So another thing which I'm very lucky to still kind of be part of camp is, my kids were always, making costumes for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
So and I've always loved doing that, and we kind of go all out for it every year. And so this year, because it was always the assistant's dress up, so this past summer, Rachel was not an assistant, but there were a couple assistants that came over. We did costumes for them, at the house and stuff. And then the funny thing was, after, during the school year, we had one of the Pansiaco girls called us up and was like, "Hey, do you have such and such a thing from camp that I can borrow? Because I'm going out to a concert and I need,
Yes.
cowboy hat and stuff." And we're like,
Of
"Absolutely,
course.
well, why not? Bring it on, But like, the garage is full of like costumes from years ago, made out of cardboard and duct tape, and
Right,
it's
sure.
just But yeah,
That's
so it's
awesome.
pretty wild. So I still see that, and I get to take part in that, and that's half of the fun, right? So before we would do the end of the year parties,
Mm-hmm.
right? For the counselors and stuff, they would have it at camp, and it was everybody brought the picnic tables. They were packing up for the year. They'd bring them down to junior camp,
Yeah.
and they would have basically, it was like a big potluck. So you had to sign up for, of course, like us younger kids, I'll sign up for napkins.
Yeah.
I got the cups,
Yep.
and so then everyone would show up at like 6 o'clock or whatever, and there would be a big, potluck, dinner type, and kind of cookout-ish, and then go into the stables for the counselor video. So, and that was what, and that was like the closure of camp.
Yeah.
It's like, then that was over. So yeah, it was awesome.
That's
So
awesome. Just
and
like
the last
being
time
at the
I
camp.
remember that happening, I think I was probably a CIT.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, that probably is it, CIT. And then after that, then they started going to, a location.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, just that like extra time at camp.
Yeah,
that's nice.
And now everybody's, the end is at the end of the day, for staff too. Well, this way staff, even though they have the end of the year party somewhere, it was, you could have a little bit more closure by being at camp, and shutting it down that way. But between now and then, a lot of it's still the same.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, you go through and, you come back from, and think about when you were a camper, a lot of it is the same stuff. You get up and, in the morning flag, and it's, the same jokes, just, recycled, and it's, the same enthusiasm, and, everything is there really is not much that has changed other than the people that work there.
Right.
But the the atmosphere is the same. The feeling when you go in, in the morning, and it's just, it's the same.
Yeah. And that's the magic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the magic for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can't get over the zip line. Well, we'll just zip them over. We don't need a bridge.